And here at the intermission at McDonald Auto Group Scream Eagles Hockey, it's time now for another installment of Around the CHL. And this week in the WHL, we are joined by Regan Bartel, who's play-by-play man for the Kelowna Rockets, franchise that's had a lot of success over the years. Regan, we'll just jump right into it. I'll ask the same question I'm going to ask Aaron Cooney in the OHL. What are your thoughts on the players ranked, the highest ranked players, I guess we could start with, in the NHL Central Scouting List, those players ranked in the WHL? What stands out for you?
Well, there are four players that are A prospects by NHL Central Scouting, and there were a couple of players that were not left off the list, but they were rated more so as a B or a C prospect. So I was a little surprised there. If you take a look at the A prospects from the WHL, I guess the player that stands up for me is Sam Steele, who plays in Regina. Real dynamic player. He's a 16-year-old forward, can do some real good things offensively. You look at Tyler Benson, who's with the Vancouver Giants. He started the year. He's injured, so he currently isn't playing. They expect him back in mid-October to late October. He underwent surgery on his back, so hopefully things work out for him because he's going to be a real dynamic player with Tyler Benson. He was real good last year, named the Western Hockey League Rookie of the Year. And then Cale Clegg, who plays for the Brandon Wheat Kings, are expected to be a powerhouse again here in the WHL. Cale Clegg is also a prospect heading into the National Hockey League draft. But, when you take a look at all the guys that are either an A, a B, or a C prospect, I don't think you have to worry too much, at least at this juncture, because it can change in a hurry. We've seen, by the time, let's say, Christmas rolls around, or let's say early in the new year, a guy that was even a C prospect can become an A prospect, and things can really move significantly one way or the other. Either you're an A prospect and you fall in the rankings, or let's say you're a lower-ranked player, let's say a B prospect, you can then become an A. So right now, NHL Central Scouting taking a bit of a throwing the dart, if you will, at the board. Hopefully, trying to stick at maybe some of the players they anticipate will be first-round selections. But right now, there's only four in the WHL that are A prospects, so there's going to be a lot of movement.
Well, you can be thankful to have four in the WHL because we only have two here in the Quebec League, although thankfully for us in Sydney, we have one that plays here with the Cape Breton Scream Eagles. Looking at the Rockets specifically, tell us about some of the guys that are NHL property, in particular Nick Merkley.
Yeah, Nick Merkley is a first-round pick of the Arizona Coyotes, and there's a lot of talk about him coming into this season because he was the WHL Rookie of the Year as a 16-year-old, had a real dynamic year on this Rocket roster. So everybody anticipated Nick Merkley being selected in the opening round, but it was, in fact, Arizona making him the final pick in round number one. But he had 90 points going into his draft year. So it really told you that this guy's got some good skill. He played at times with Leon Draisaitl at the Memorial Cup, and really Nick Merkley was so good at the Memorial Cup that I think it only helped his stock. The only problem with Nick Merkley is he's a bit of a smaller player. He's only 5'10". He weighs about 185, 190 pounds. So a little short. And so maybe that's why some of the NHL scouts stayed away from him. But again, he is going to be a real impact player, I think, even at the National Hockey League level. He still has a couple more years here, I think, in Major Junior. This is only his 18-year-old year. He'll likely play with the Rockets again next season as a 19-year-old. But if he has a chance to play for Canada at the World Junior Hockey Championship, that'd be a nice feather in his cap. And again, he's a real nice player that I think the Arizona Coyotes are happy to select in round number one.
You talked earlier about the success expected in Brandon and, of course, Red Deer's hosting the Memorial Cup this year. What's expected of Kelowna this year? Where do they fit in the pecking order in the WHL?
Well, because they're the defending champions, anytime you've got the Western Hockey League Championship, everybody wants to knock you off the pedestal. So I think the target is very large on the backs of the Rockets for the most part. And it has been, over the course of several years here in Kelowna, where the Rockets have been one of the marquee franchises. They just seem to be able to, draft well, and they seem to make some real good trades to acquire, some high level players. So I anticipate again the Rockets to be, one of the powerhouses in the WHL. You talk about Brandon and you look at Red Deer in the Central Division. Both those teams are going to be good as well. Brandon, of course, lost to Kelowna in last year's WHL final in 4 straight games, and then you got Red Deer, as you mentioned earlier, hosting the Memorial Cup, in 2016. So I know the Red Deer Rebels are definitely going to add some pieces to the puzzle as the season goes along because they want to be a powerhouse at the right time and want to be a good representative as host of the Memorial Cup. So when I look at the Rockets, I think they're the best team in the Western Conference right now. And I anticipate that, again, with a couple of trades, potentially at the trade deadline, which is still, more than a few months away, I think Kelowna, again, would love nothing more to repeat, because the last team to repeat as the Western Hockey League champion were the Kamloops Blazers back in 1994 and again in 1995. So it hasn't been done for some time. So the Rockets would love nothing better than to repeat as league champions and do something that the Blazers did in the mid-90s.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a great rivalry there, two teams in the BC region. Both teams have had some success. You mentioned, Kelowna winning the league last year. You've had the chance to watch over all the success that they've had in Kelowna. Tell me about some of the players you've watched over the years, and maybe getting to host that 2004 Memorial Cup. What was that like?
Well, the Rockets originally started in Tacoma, Washington back in 1991 as an expansion franchise, and 4 years in Tacoma resulted in the team relocating to Kelowna, British Columbia, and that's where they've been now for 25 years. The Rockets are celebrating their 25th anniversary this season, and boy, you talk about some of the players that have come through this Kelowna Rocket organization over the years. Mainly the defensemen stand out, because you look at Duncan Keith and Shea Weber and Tyler Myers and Josh Georges, to just name a few. Luke Shin has played on the Rocket blue line. So many real solid NHL defensemen have come through here. And yeah, you speak of the 2004 Memorial Cup that was hosted here in Kelowna. It was a great event, and the Rockets went through that tournament not allowing very many goals. Shea Weber was one of the key catalysts for the Rockets on that team at that time back in '04. And it was great to see Kelowna awarded the Memorial Cup, because it is not a large city, not like you see where, let's say, if Calgary or Vancouver would host it, or let's say Portland, Oregon would. Kelowna very much a smaller center of about 110,000. So the community really rallied around the tournament, really got excited about major junior hockey, and in the end, they won it all. It was a 2-1 victory in order to win the Memorial Cup. So that was a sweet moment. They've been to the Memorial Cup before 3 other times, but have unfortunately been unable to win the championship. But '04 will always stand out as one of the greatest moments in Rocket history.
Well, from what you're saying, yeah, they may have a chance to get there again. So who knows? We might be talking to you again down the road. Regan, we thank you for giving us some insight on everything Kelowna and everything WHL today.
No problem, Patrick. Have a good day.
That's Regan Bartel. He is play-by-play man for the Kelowna Rockets in the WHL. You're listening to Around the CHL on McDonald Auto Group Screaming Eagles Hockey on CJCB 1270.